Good morning, friends. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to talk all about party composition. I'm going to explain the upsides and the downsides of even thinking about party composition and whether or not it's worth worrying about. Should you try to build an optimized party comp with your players? As a GM, should you encourage this? Or as a GM, should you just be fine with whatever composition the players come up with? Does it matter at all? I'm going to talk all through it. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's get into it. So the idea of optimizing your party comp or your party composition is pretty simple. As a GM, you might be asking yourself, should I step in at all to encourage my players or share my opinion about their party composition? For example, do I want to encourage them to optimize the party, or do I want to just let them come up with whatever they want, or even, dare I say, urge them or even share an opinion that they may want to go in a non-traditional party comp direction? Party composition is basically this. There are a lot of different classes in D&D, and in most TTRPGs, there are different classes you can play. There are tanks, there are ranged damage dealers, there are fighters, there are spellcasters, there are healing classes. And so when you optimize your party composition, the idea is you will have a well-rounded party that can do quite a few different things. And then this party will be more dynamic and capable of handling a wider array of challenges with greater ease. And that's the truth of it, that this is a true thing. Optimizing your party comp will make the party stronger, more adaptable, will help them to evolve, will help them to stay ahead of challenges through an optimized, well-rounded set of abilities and skills. But then we ask the magic question, does it even matter? Does party composition matter? And as a GM, should you care about it? Okay, I'm going to share my 2 cents on this, and I want you to drop a comment and let me know if you agree or disagree, because I might ruffle some feathers with this one. I think some people may disagree with me. By the way, do you struggle to come up with plot arcs on the fly? If so, I have the perfect tool for you. It is called My Ultimate Plot Randomizer. It is a free ebook. When you join my email list, you can download this for free. You'll get the link in your first email. It contains 4 D100 tables that will let you roll random plot arcs whenever you need them. Roll the hook, the conflict, and the conclusion, and even add wild and wacky stuff all right there. Download this, print it out, add it to your tool collection, and you will never go without another plot arc again. I give this away for free to help you create awesome plot arcs just like I do. I use this in almost every single session, and you are not going to want to miss out on this, so make sure you grab this. But here's what I think. Not only do I think of party comp as something that the GM should not worry about in any way, shape, or form, but I would even go as far as to say that if I were going to give my players any kind of opinion, which I wouldn't unless they asked me, about what kind of party composition they should strive for, I would almost say, I think you should play a non-optimized party on purpose. Personally, if it were me, that's what I would do. For example, a group of all different types of wizards or all different types of barbarians. Now, you may think to yourself, well, GM Philosopher, why would you ever do this? This is very counterintuitive. Obviously, a more optimized party composition will make for a more well-rounded range of skills and abilities in the game, which will help the players to have a better time, right? Well, maybe. It depends on the goals. What is the purpose of D&D? Let's start there. The purpose of D&D is to have fun telling a narrative story arc about your characters. And then the GM facilitates this by adjudicating the rules and setting some basic parameters and then running the players through the game. The story is about the players. It's about the characters that they're running. These characters all have their own story, and together they're telling one big fantasy narrative about the story of the adventure. And the goal really is to create this intellectual art while having fun doing it and hanging out with your friends and just in general enjoying the experience. With that being said, this is where party composition comes into the equation. Whether or not you optimize your party composition should really come down to this one question: which way is it going to be more fun for you? Some players love the idea of putting together an optimized group. They love the idea of having like a tank and a healer and a ranged damage dealer and up-close fighter and support character, and they love to take this into combat and use it to optimize their skills and tactics. They like to use it for problem solving. They derive a lot of rewards that come from filling a valuable role in an optimized party. They want to operate at that top level. They want to be skilled, and on top of it, they want that party to be able to just deal with challenges in a very optimized and efficient fashion. And this is fun for a lot of players. But let's not forget that TTRPGs can be enjoyed in a wide variety of different ways. And some people don't like to take this optimized approach. Some people want to play characters for the sake of playing the characters for some reason. Maybe because they have a character in their mind, or maybe because they think to themselves, you know what? It would be a lot of fun to play a wizard who's trying to fight with a long sword, even though that's not a very optimized class. Or maybe it would be a lot of fun to be role playing a barbarian who is actually really trying to be a wizard. So it's like you multi-classing a little bit or something like that, making like a class that isn't necessarily optimized and a party comp that isn't necessarily optimized for the sake of role play and a different story narrative and creating a different character who maybe doesn't fit into the traditional mold. There are a lot of role players who really enjoy this aspect of it. And this is why you can get some crazy party compositions like 4 bards and a druid, or 5 fighters, or 3 wizards, a warlock, and a cleric. There are a lot of different types of party compositions. You have thousands of options, and then the more players you have, the more you're going to have options to play around with. And the players should make this choice based on their goals for the game. And if anything, as a GM, and this is my opinion, and this is the take that maybe some GMs will disagree with me about, but at the end of the day, your role is really this: to encourage players to play the types of characters they want to play and to facilitate the very best storytelling possible for them as they role play that character to help make the story awesome and to make the experience fun. Contrary to what many people might believe, there are just as many reasons to create a non-optimized party as there are to create an optimized party. There are just as many ways to tell a story and have fun if you're not running an optimized party composition as if you are running an optimized party composition. It's really all a question of intent and what your goals are. Hey, are you tired of using the same old methods to roll up the same old loot over and over again in your games? Well, I have a new, unique, awesome way to generate awesome new loot that your players will never see coming. It's called the Ultimate Dungeon Loot Randomizer. This book comes in an awesome hardcover version or in a very affordable ebook option. It contains mundane dungeon items, mundane weapons and armor. It contains slightly magical dungeon items, magical weapons and armor, cursed items, potions and elixirs, magic scrolls, otherworldly wonders and relics, and even entire chests of loot. It contains 10 massive D100 tables full of awesome dungeon loot that you can roll, flavor however you want, set it at whatever power level you want, and best of all, it is system agnostic, so you can use it with any fantasy TTRPG. If you want to really level up your dungeon loot, grab this, link is in the description, order your copy today. And when I say you, I mean your party, your players, what all of you think would be the most fun. One thing I will say is that as a GM, it might be really important for you to decide how you want to handle party compositions that are not necessarily optimized. This actually delves a little bit more into the craft of being a GM and supporting your players and learning when to actually support them and when to let the sandbox have its way. For example, if you were planning out your campaign and you were like, okay, the setting here is going to be out in the desert. It's going to be very low magic. There's going to be very little in the way of like support through healing resources and this and that. So I'm thinking to myself, the party will have to be really ingenious. They'll have to be really crafty when it comes to using their healing spells and whatnot. And then you realize that the group has put together a whole party of barbarians and fighters with virtually zero healing capabilities through magic. You might think to yourself, okay, this is a bit of a problem. Should I let the sandbox have its way, or should I change it a little bit to offer a bit more support? And the truth is that this is actually a really good question. And the primary question we should ask ourselves as GMs when we're dealing with a party comp that isn't super optimized, because a lot of times we develop campaign ideas based around the idea that there will be at least a somewhat balanced party composition. In other words, we can generally plan on at least someone playing something that has some healing abilities, and someone's probably going to play something that can take a bit more damage or have a higher armor class. With that being said, what should we do when the party we happen to be running a game for really deviates from that normal and upsets that balance? Is it your responsibility as the GM to stick with the sandbox and say, you know what, you made your bed, time to sleep in it? Or is it your job to say, well, since they chose a different party composition, I might have to balance this a little better. Maybe I have to insert more healing potions into this world, or at least give them more opportunities to buy things like healing potions or whatever the case may be. And once again, I think that the answer to that question really comes down to what your goals are and what would be more fun. Now, this is something you can discuss at session 0, or it's something that you can make known at session 0. For example, I might sit down with my party and say, okay, now you guys have picked a pretty different kind of party comp for this one. I will be honest, my ideas for this world were that it was going to be quite survivally. Since you don't have any classes that can create food and water, and you don't have any healers, well, I'm just letting you know it might be a bit of a challenge. So keep that in mind, right? I think that personally, I would try to stick kind of close to letting the sandbox do its work. And I would also keep in mind that they may hire hirelings to fill the roles that they feel that are crucial, but they do not fill. For example, I've GM'd a lot of campaigns where the party has hired clerics to travel with them because they didn't really have any other healers. This is actually pretty typical in my core group. So that's one way that parties can kind of help to diversify and fill some of those roles. I've also had parties do things like hire guides, hire frontline soldiers to soak up damage, hire support archers, all kinds of things like this. I've even had them hire spellcasters, wizards, etc. So at the end of the day, here's my really final piece of advice on how I handle questions about party composition. I always say you should all, and I'm speaking to my players when I say this, you should all play the class and character you want to play. Don't try to optimize a comp just because you think you have to. I have a feeling that these characters are going to be so awesome, they're going to figure it out even without an optimized party. And to be honest, it's pretty fun when party compositions are really different, because this actually causes the party to have to kind of do some out of the box thinking. And it kind of takes us away from that very stereotypical fantasy TTRPG, D&D type of gameplay where everyone is kind of always doing the same things, the traditional typical things that their class would do. When that gets thrown out and you end up with a party composition that's a little more unique and maybe unbalanced, or really like way off balanced, then this can make for some interesting and sometimes more diverse and fun gameplay. And sometimes the way that the players come up with in order to get things done with an unbalanced party comp is like really fun. And so personally, my biggest thing is just to encourage the players to play the classes and characters they want to play, and then I let the rest sort itself out. And that's really all I have to say about that. That's going to be my official 2 cents on party composition and what I think of it. So hey, thank you so much for coming back and watching another one of my videos. I'm here every day creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. So I will see you awesome people on the next one.